So we have a gun or a primitive weapon season from the middle or third week of November to the last day of January. In the lower part of Mississippi, it's through the middle of February. That 2-week period from the middle of December to the end of December, there are so many stinking deer that are killed. Because for us, like Christmas time is prime rut. Like Christmas time all the way through January. You're going to have a lot of rutting activity, and that's when you'll go to those WMAs that I'm talking about, and just from sun up to 9-10 o'clock in the morning, it's just it sounds like
4th of July.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today we are joined by a special guest, Trent Ellis. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. We're excited for this conversation. Watch your videos a ton, especially on the comedic side. There's nothing better than drowning at work and then seeing something funny and enjoying that. That it takes me away from my day and makes my day a little brighter. So I like the stuff that you make.
Hey, I appreciate it. That's you said it right there. It's another reason that I post when I do. I've had a lot of guys in the industry ask me about posting schedule. When do you post your reels? And they're like, and it's, a lot of very successful people, they post at like 4 or 5 o'clock. 'Cause that's when everybody's getting off. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I want to catch them right there about the middle of the day when they're just about to knock that coworker in the mouth, that's when I want them to see my video right there,
Yeah. When they're headed to the stall with their headphones in, like, I can't do it, babe. I got to find another job. Yep. See something funny.
Yeah, getting a 30-minute poop break.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, 45-minute poop break. Yep.
My wife's caught on to that one. She's like, I got to take a leak. And she was like, don't spend 30 minutes in there. I'm like, okay.
My wife will tell me, especially in the evening, she'll be like, remember, you're putting your son down tonight. I'm like, okay, I'll set an alarm. Yeah.
That's funny.
I usually try to sit there at least until my legs get numb, and then that's my sign to, all right, I probably got to get moving again.
Dude, what's crazy, I just figured this out the other day. I have no hair on my legs where my forearms sit. No hair right there. I've got 2 bald spots right there, man.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Exactly.
All that scrolling.
That's right.
That's awesome. How many kids do you got?
Right now, just one. He'll be 3 in June. So.
Okay, so you're fixing to jump right back into the fray. You got this figured out now. Starting over again, huh?
Yeah. So that's right. Yeah, we're putting in the practice, as they say, for this second. So yeah.
I've got a 4-week-old, and me and my wife are always like, let's have them back to back to back. Knock them out in 3 or 4 years and be done. And now we're like, man, 2 or 3 years apart would be awesome. Like what do we consider it?
1 and 4.
I just got 1 month-old. Yep, little boy.
Oh my God! So how's that going?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm barely making it. I can't complain because I'm like, I'm tired, and my wife's like, don't do that. I'm like, okay, yeah, sorry.
What now? How old are you though?
28.
Okay, so yeah, we're about the same age. Yeah. You kind of need to knock them out back to back. My wife's 3 years older than me. I'll be 30 in a couple of months. She'll be 33, and I told her, I said, I do not want to be drawing Social Security going to a high school graduation. So we need to get these things knocked out, and, but yeah.
That's always funny when your parents are from different generations. Like my mom was like 30 something when I was in high school, and our buddy Peyton's mom or dad was like in his mid 50s. I'm like, dude, that's my grandparents. Yeah. This is off,
My parents had 3 kids by the time they were 21, and I was like, all right, that's a little bit too quick. You might need a hobby there, but that's just me.
Yeah. That's all. That's back in the day when all they did was work and procreate. That's it.
Yeah. Try to make little workers. He tried to get some working out of me, but I don't know how well it worked out. But so you're from Mississippi, correct?
Correct.
Alrighty. So I assume we haven't hunted Mississippi just yet, but from what we've heard from other podcasts and stuff, Mississippi has a relatively good hunting culture. So,
ain't good.
Y'all like to hunt. Turkey hunting, deer hunting. Now, I don't know if it's the best compared to some of the Midwest states, but for southern hunting, it's pretty good, right?
Where are y'all out of?
Oklahoma.
Okay. All right. So it sucks compared to Oklahoma. I'm just going to tell you that.
Right.
I've got buddies from Oklahoma, and I've never hunted it personally, but I've had family go out there and hunt especially when it comes to turkeys. Now, the reason I ask, before I get into that, the reason I ask about what do you define as good? Yes, everybody here loves to hunt. I mean, when it comes to private land, you're not going to find very many parcels at all that don't get turkey or deer hunted. I mean, just everybody out here hunts. But we got a lot of outlawing, okay? And because we have so many people that hunt, when you get on even private land parcels, your turkeys, they don't gobble very well. And your deer are, they're pretty spooky, So that's one thing. I've been blessed to be able to go out of state and turkey hunt specifically a good bit in the last year. And my own experience and talking to the other guys out there, it's just the birds everywhere else, specifically turkeys, like I said, they just sound off everywhere else. It's not unusual to hunt 4 days somewhere and all 4 days or 3 out of 4 get on gobbling birds. May not kill, but at least you're getting on them. And I've told this on multiple podcasts, dude. I remember April 7th, I want to say, at 1:30 p.m. in 2021, I heard one bird gobble, and I hunted 4 or 5 days a week. And that was like, yeah. I tell everybody that comes out here, I'm like, that I've had out here to hunt with me, I'm like, listen, you're coming out here to hang out with Trent. We're buddies. You're coming to hang out if by chance you were to kill a turkey. That's strictly a bonus. Like, that's right. Okay. So, but yeah. So
I was just trying to make you feel good about your state, but I mean, I didn't want to be the one to poop on it, so I'll just leave that up to you.
No. I mean, it's kind of one of those things too that you feel proud of when you do. Like my first 4 birds, y'all can hear my little. All right, get out of here, boy. He gonna tear something up before he goes down for a nap. I can tell you. My first 4 birds I killed on public, and growing up hunting this thing, I knew, how difficult it was. And then you add that public. I don't know if y'all public land hunt a lot or anything.
We do, yeah.
Okay. So y'all get it. That's hard everywhere. But it's one of those things like, man, I killed a dadgum bird by myself here on public land. Like it's it makes you feel good. But I'll be honest with you, I'd much rather go to places and hunt where that's, like I said, they just sound off. But yeah, that's, I mean, we have a good hunting culture here. We got good folks here, but man, when you get in those states to where just everybody hunts everywhere, you're going to see you can see the change in the woods,
Yeah. Oklahoma's, kind of the same way. Everybody, it seems like, especially around here Northeast where I live, everybody likes to hunt, and our land is very segmented into like 20, 40 acre chunks. So especially like turkey hunting and stuff, like you might have them during the winter or whatever, but come springtime, they're off, like nowhere to be found. It seems like, at least for me, which I'm not that great of a bird hunter. But I think one thing Oklahoma does have going for it is just the amount of public land it does have. I mean, I don't know about Mississippi. Do y'all have quite a bit?
Yeah, I would say so. Compared to a lot of states, I feel like we've got, gosh, I don't know. I would say, don't quote me on this. I would say we have to have anywhere between, 500,000 to well over 1 million acres of public land to hunt here. So it's not, we have plenty of places to hunt. It's just like you were saying, earlier, everybody loves to hunt. So you're not going to a piece of public out here. You could be 3 miles deep, cross 14 sloughs, and run into a dead body. Okay, and guarantee you're not the only guy to be hunting that spot this year. Guarantee you.
I had a pretty good turkey hunt one year. I went out to around Bruce, Mississippi, or I called it Bruce. I don't know. It's funnier that way. It was an interesting little town. But we had a pretty good hunt out there. The place that we hunted is no longer public land, so I don't mind saying that. It's not even there anymore. But we had some really, really good hunts in there. But it was fun, real pretty bottoms, hardwood bottoms. And we walked in like 2.5 miles in on one piece, and there was like 3 gobblers roosted in this one tree. And we're like, groaning by the time we get back there and sweating. And then we see a guy come in off private. He walks like 200 yards out of his truck. I'm like, no. And he's sitting on the other side of the field just hammering them. I was like, oh, no.
I had that this year where I deer hunt. It's very difficult to get to, and you have to have a boat to begin with. So that takes a certain percentage of people away from that spot to begin with. But I won't never forget. I actually know the boy too. He's a dang good hunter, which sucks. But he's a good fella. He can walk in to this piece of public from his family's land. And I mean, it's just just really easy for him to get in there and get on some stuff. And then for everybody else coming off public, I mean, it's a commitment every time you go back to this one little area, just because it's thick, it's wet, and I'm sure it gets overlooked a good bit because of that. But yeah, there's nothing like being up in the tree and in the saddle and being like, man, yeah, ain't nobody back here, and then look over and see an orange vest, and you're like, are you freaking shit?
Yeah. No, that is true. I mean, even though there's a lot of public land, people aren't afraid to get use those Lamborghinis and walk. I forget which WMA, and I guess I ain't going to say either way. We were on here, and Christian took me because I don't know how long ago it was. It had to be at least 5 years ago. I never shot a turkey off public, and we have a buddy who's just outstanding turkey hunting. He'll go to 5 different states and tag out in 5 days, and he's done it before. But he kind of keyed us in on this one little area. It's in an oxbow, but the access to this spot is like kind of tricky, and we figured that out the hard way because we just followed this little dirt 2-track, which on X it said it was like an easement in a way. But we get to the parking lot and it had, ODWC parking signs. So we thought we were good to go. So we get out, long story short, we roost this bird and we walk back out, and it's like, I don't know, midnight, 1 a.m. or something like that. And we're like, sweet, we'll just sleep here in the truck in the parking lot for a couple hours, get back up and go try to kill that bird in the morning. Well, no longer do we get settled down in the truck and we're about to shut out all the lights. And here comes a convoy of trucks pull down this 2-track. And there's probably 8 trucks loaded down with dogs. And in each truck, it's like a little clown car. They got 4 or 5 guys hopping out of them. Every single one of them has a gun. And we're like, what is about to happen here? And so we, turn on our truck and we roll down the window. It's like, hey, how you doing? What are y'all doing here? Oh, we're turkey hunting. We just got back from roosting a bird. We're planning on going in there in the morning and hunting. He was like, yeah, that's fine. That's public. He said, but what are you doing here? This is private. And we pointed to that sign. We're like, well, that says ODWC parking right there. What do you mean? And he was like, well, this road leading in here, that's our land. So you guys are trespassing. And at that point, like, okay, how is this sign here when there's clearly no other way to get a vehicle back here? How is that your property? But at that point at time, it's 1:30, 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's us with, 2 little 20 gauges with, against 8, 12 guys, all with guns, and look like they're not in the greatest mood. So we hightailed out of there.
Down there just to run y'all off and get out.
They were hog hunting with dogs.
Hey,
yeah. So with that being said, we called the game warden, and he was like, "Yeah, that's kind of been a problem. We've been trying to catch those guys down there to talk with them, because here in Oklahoma, you're not allowed to run dogs, and especially hog hunt, or you can hog hunt, but you just can't run dogs during like deer season or turkey season or anything like that."
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, I didn't get my partner, and we didn't go down there and talk with them, but we're just going to have to plan it out and try to catch them. And we're like, well, we're giving you the greatest tip ever. We know exactly where they're at. And he's like, oh, we can't tonight though. And we're like, what the hell's happening here?
Yeah. It's like they're here right now.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I know of one road specifically that is when you were talking about that, it was coming to mind on public. And I was driving by it a couple of months ago, and it's an obvious easement because same thing. All right, there's a gate, a WMA gate right there at the end of it. And so you know that people from the wildlife department there, they're driving in there. They've got to have access. They've got to have access to these gates. So these people cannot shut this land off or this drive off. And they, sure enough, somebody's posted a sign there that says private drive, all that kind of crap. And yeah. I don't know what I would have done with a truckload of folks coming out with 3 tons, but
you don't ask questions or try to start anything.
Yes, sir.
You know your place in life at that moment.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. Golly, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's turning people away from public and getting these leases and buying their own land and stuff. Is I think it's more of that kind of crap than it is of the difficulty it is to take a deer or a bird on public. There's just some crazy. I talked to a boy that he was hunting in Kentucky and big public land hunter. And I think this was for turkeys last year, but he went out there and said, had a note on his truck and tires were slashed and said, something about how you hunting my spot and all this kind of crap. And yeah, I mean, so just people, there's people out there that just, they have no sense. And, it's a sad thing to see them still living, but anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
So where else do you go? I mean, I know you said you hunt in your home state, but you alluded to kind of traveling and out of state hunting for turkeys. Where else do you go?
For turkeys, I've hunted and killed in Oregon, West Virginia, shoot a monkey. Where did I just got back from Florida and killed my first Osceola at the beginning of this week, Monday morning.
Trying
to think too. Kansas, and I did hunt. No, that wasn't for turkeys. I was going to say Washington State.
What was Oregon like? That sounds like a peculiar place to go turkey hunt. You think of Oregon as the coast and the mountains, and then a couple crazy cities with Portland and all those other ones up there.
Yeah, Oregon's been good. Oregon's always been good. What was so funny, dude, is last year, me and my buddy Cam, he went out there with me and got his first turkey. And
Cam Haynes.
The Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Numa Outdoors. Growing up, I remember waddling around the woods, looking like the Michelin Man and still freezing my butt off. But thanks to Numa Outdoors, those days are over. It's not just about staying warm. When I go out hunting, I need to know that I have gear for every single thing the woods might throw at me, whether it's heat or rain or cold. Numa Outdoors offers quality gear for every pursuit. If you're looking for quality garments backed by a lifetime warranty, make sure to go to NumaOutdoors.com and use code HA20 for 20% off at checkout. Whether we're chasing whitetails here in the South or we're headed out west to get after some bugling bulls, we trust Numa Outdoors and we hope you will
too. No. I don't do enough push-ups or run far enough to hang out with Cam Haynes.
Right. I don't like running either. Walking, I prefer.
Yeah. He would slap me and my mama if he saw me. Buddy Cameron Robson, he's on social media. He took him out there last year. Well, that's where my wife is from. She's from Oregon / Washington. She was born in Pendleton, Oregon, and she grew up in Walla Walla, Washington.
Okay.
So
that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Walla Walla, Washington. That sounds fake.
It's so good they named it twice. So we've been going out there since we've been, together 8 or 9 years now. And a few years ago I met a local guy out there that liked to hunt, which was, right the opposite from here. Everybody here hunts, everybody out there mainly doesn't. And but I met a guy out there and hunted with him. I've hunted with him about every year that I've gone out there. And but I took Cam last year to get his first one. Cam's from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Okay.
We pull up and we notice there's a tag, Alabama tag right there. We're on top of a dadgum mountain. I mean, we're up there. And and it's very remote on how to get to this place. But we look, and there's a darn Alabama tag right there. And I'm like, what the mess? So we get out. I'm talking to them, and I want to say they're from Birmingham. And so you got 4 guys on top of this mountain, all that are from the same hour and a half spot in Mississippi and Alabama. Those 2 boys, they kill, one right there and one over here. This boy's 500 yards from us. This boy's 500 yards from us that way. He kills 10 minutes later, and you see them throw their stuff in the truck, because we weren't hunting far off the road. See them throw their stuff in the truck, and they strike out and leave. And about an hour later, Cam killed his first bird. So you had 3 boys from Alabama on the top of that Oregon mountain that one day, kill 3 birds within about an hour and a half. So
wow,
yeah, and that was my first ever out of state hunt and kill, would be Oregon. And the birds they're Rios where we hunt. The
Rios all the way up there?
They actually have Rios and Miriams on the same mountain. And so obviously, well, it's not obvious, but that was me learning. That was my time to learn the difference in a Rio and an Eastern. Y'all have got mainly Rios where y'all are, right?
Exactly. Just a little bit of Easterns.
Yeah. Okay. Have y'all ever hunted Easterns? Have y'all ever gone out of state and hunted Easterns?
I hunted them in Mississippi. Yeah, they're a little different.
That's right. You said that. Okay. Yeah. They're Rios. They gobble. Good Lord, do they gobble? Gobble, gobble, gobble. And that was the first time getting out of the truck. My buddy's like, hit that hoot out, and I hooted, and you hear 3 or 4 of them. I'm just like, like this is insane, But yeah, it was. Oregon's one of my favorites, man. It's a lot because of the family aspect up there. But I just like going to where birds gobble. It don't matter really where it is.
We went to Wyoming and South Dakota for a bachelor trip. Shoot, I think it was 2 years ago, and I was very surprised how much Merriam's gobble. They gobbled a ton, like compared to what I was used to on stuff down here. Maybe it's because a lot of the birds over here are pressured and stuff, but they were they'd sit on private and gobble their head off. They wouldn't come over on the public and do it, but they gobbled a ton. They just didn't seem like they were as loud.
Yeah, I was in South Dakota back right before Christmas. I want to say it's when I killed that 10 point this year. It was my first out of state deer. I gotten a lot of firsts in the last year and a half. So, but when we were hunting that place, we actually had birds gobbling on us, and they were all Merriams. Obviously, they're in South Dakota, and it was the first time that I had ever heard a bird just sound off repeatedly, just gobbling his head off for 20, 30 minutes during deer season, So, but we're going back up at the end of April and going to go to that same place with my buddies and see if we can't lay them down. So
yeah,
Dakota's pretty.
Yeah,
I watched 2 guys almost get arrested at the monument. They brought their turkeys up there to take a picture with what's that monument that has the 4 presidents' heads?
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. Yeah. They came up there and took pictures with their birds next to Mount Rushmore, and the game wardens walked up there like, "You want to go to jail?" Apparently, you can't do that on because they were saying they were taking turkeys out of the national forest and spreading disease, moving them around, And I was like, dude, I didn't know that. And it was 2 dudes from Louisiana. They were like, I don't know. They looked like fish out of water.
I would try it too.
Louisiana, there is a good chance that they did get them birds from the national forest. Okay, Louisiana boys are just straight up killers. I'm gonna tell you, and they don't care where. All right.
Yeah.
So you kind of bypassed it a little quick about Mississippi having a few outlaws. There has to be a story or 2 behind that.
Oh, that's where the majority of my start in social media came from.
Oh, really?
Personal outlaw experience, and then all of my growing up and buddies and everything. Look, I got an uncle that to this day believes it ain't illegal unless you get caught. Okay?
He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. We got some great Southern wisdom down here. I think it's not just Southern. It's anybody brought up in the country, all over the country, or in the rural country, all over the country. But, Yeah, man. Like, it's just, I'm telling you, dude, I've seen some straight up dudes that are, surrendered to the ministry, won't even say a cuss word. And when it comes to turkey season, and if that bird is gobbling on private, we can't leave a gobbling bird, man. Like, no.
Border's just an imaginary line.
That's Jesus. Yeah.
Lord didn't say nothing about private and public in the Bible, so
it's all God's.
Yeah,
that's right. He said the pursuit of happiness. This makes me happy. Going and poaching other people's birds. Let's do it. But yeah, we have a big issue here with people shooting deer off the side of the road, people shooting birds. I mean, poaching birds. It doesn't matter. I mean, we have a big issue with that here. I think it's, I've heard it be the same in Pennsylvania, Michigan. I'm sure Oklahoma has a fair share of it too.
Everybody does it.
Anywhere where you've got a ton of rednecks who love to hunt, you're going to have a lot of poaching, and all those states have a ton of rednecks who love to hunt. So,
yeah, but I get the cultural aspect of it. I mean, because we've had our fair share of poachers on the podcast. We've had Charles Beatty, Pat Lane, and a few well-known poachers from Texas. But I understand, like, in the old days, people did it for food. There's nothing wrong with that. And even still today, I think if you need it absolutely for food, 100%, I think you should do it if that's what it takes to live and feed your family. Yep. But with, anymore, venison is, after it's all said and done, after you go kill the deer, get it processed, make it in jerky, whatever, it's more expensive than beef. So I think that is kind of out of the park when it comes to poaching for meat. I think that side of it is just no more in today's day. I mean, what do you think on that?
Well, I think we've got fat people on food stamps.
Okay, that is true.
The whole argument of I'm needing this to feed my family, that in 2025, you don't deal with that. This ain't,
right.
1940, 30, 50, 60, whatever. I mean, for years now, if people need food, they can get food. No problem. So, I mean, my take on that is if it's your private land, I believe a fella ought to be able to do whatever a fella wants to do on his own land. But with that being said, don't go on somebody else's. Don't go on public, even though it's yours because you pay taxes just like everybody. All right. Don't go over there and screw it up for everybody else. And then when you screw your own land up and you ain't got no deer and no turkeys because you've killed 16 birds in a single season or you've, shot all the deer off of it, don't sit there and complain about your area ain't got no deer.
Right.
So because you do see the same type of person that says I'm doing this to feed my family or any kind of justification for their wrongdoing. They're the same people that on the back end of that will be like, yeah, man, Northeast Mississippi, it sucks. There ain't no deer here. There ain't no birds here. Them birds won't even gobble, man. Well, you shot 7 of them last April, and we're a 3-bird state. And you're not the only joker doing that. So maybe that may have something to do with them not gobbling. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my take on it.
Do you think it has an effect like in a place where Mississippi isn't, I know there's some big deer in Mississippi, but it's not thought of as like some big trophy state in a sense. Do you think it's easier when, the resource isn't valued for its antler size to kind of just dismiss it, right? Because if somebody shot a 180-inch deer in Iowa, posted, dude, it'd be a big deal, but is it as big a deal around there when people are shooting 4 points and 6 points and spikes? You think that's how people justify it?
I can tell you're a pretty educated fellow because I didn't get but about half of that. You're asking me, is it more accepted shooting small deer here?
You think it has have you seen the big strain on the resource down there? Like it's hard to grow big deer when people are doing that.
Well, Poe would take it more seriously or poaching more seriously if it's a world class deer. For instance, that C.J. Alexander buck, it was however big it was, he shot it for personal gain. And of course, since it was massive, it got a lot of exposure on social media and stuff, and in that instance, people are like, throw the book at him. But when it comes to shooting 4 points, 6 points, little low scrub bucks, people don't really hold that to as high of a priority when it comes to throwing the book at them as well. So do you think there's something to do with that?
Basically, the reason we don't kill a ton of big deer is because we have a 3-month-long gun season of sort.
Oh, wow.
So your biggest deer are going to be in places, and your biggest deer in quantities. I'm not saying that there's not a 200-inch deer on this one WMA that you can gun hunt, but in quantities, in large quantities, your big deer in large quantities are going to be on places that are bow only in this state. And I'd say it's probably pretty close to that everywhere else too. And that takes away a lot of poaching and a lot of shooting small deer. I mean, I would hate it if we did, just like I would love it and hate it because I love to gun hunt, but I also know that if Mississippi would go to a primarily bow state and have a week-long gun season, and a week-long muzzleloader season, within 5 years from now, they'd probably increase a lot of non-resident hunting, because people would be seeing like, dadgum, there's some good deer in Mississippi. And there are. It's just they don't get to see 4 and 5 years old, except when you go to the bow-only areas, then you see a lot more of those big, big mature deer. Now, obviously, there's still poaching that goes on, but if, you can't poach a deer as easily at 3:00 in the afternoon with a gun in a bow state. Because if somebody hears that gun go off and they know that's near a WMA or this, you're going to have 10 people call and be like, hey, we just heard somebody shoot. And they may be lying or what, but they'll be like, hey, we just heard somebody shoot on the WMA. Then that person is, they're going to be chased after. But if you do that here, it's like, that's kind of normal. It's like, well, they could be poaching. They could be hunting that WMA or that refuge or whatever, but it's allowed here. So, yeah, that's a very, that's not a very light statement down here. Is I wish that we were just bow on. Yeah. I'd not like to have a gun season, but I'd like for it to be a week, and a muzzleloader that's a week and forces everybody else to shoot a crossbow or a compound. And here in our state, you can. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be disabled. You can shoot a crossbow as a non-disabled person.
Yeah, it's the same here in Oklahoma.
If they want to do that, fine. I don't care. But regardless, you can't. It's not as easy to shoot that itty bitty 6-point that you shot for the 16th time, running through the woods with a crossbow as it is a gun.
Those long gun seasons make it tough. I think Texas is so big, it's hard to kind of paint the whole state in one corner, but Texas has like a 2.5-month gun season too. And that makes it pretty tough. They don't got many chances to make it to maturity in a lot of areas.
Well, poaching definitely has an effect on it, but also, the state's regulations, I think has even more, because here in Oklahoma, we're a 2-buck. And some people complain about that, and we're kind of the same way. We're not as bad as Mississippi when it comes to the gun season. We don't have like a 3-month long one, but we do have a rifle season that's smack dab in the heart of the rut here. And that's when you get on Facebook and all your hit listers that you've been watching for the year, or the ones you've been chasing on public, that's when everything gets flooded. And, so those type of regulations and season dates, they can definitely screw up, especially age class and quality of deer for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, it sucks too, because, if you've got like you said, if you've got deer that you're watching and, it doesn't make it wrong, or right or whatever, but it does suck to see that buck on camera, or, to see him out there and you can't get him with a bow. And then, that next 2 weeks, because there's places here that have like certain WMAs have it to where like the last 2 weeks of December you can gun hunt, and then the rest of January you can only boat hunt. And that place specifically, from gun season opens up here the middle of November And with some type of gun, whether it be a regular like 308 or a 4570, we call those 4570s 35 Whalen. I can't remember if those are like technically called straight wall cartridges or not, but
yeah,
those, we call those primitive weapons. So we have a gun or a primitive weapon season from the middle or third week of November to the last day of January. Okay. And in the lower part of Mississippi, it's through the middle of February. So, but there's still some of those WMAs, like I was talking about a while ago, that 2-week period from the from the middle of December to the end of December, there are so many stinking deer that are killed, because for us, like Christmas time is prime rut. Like Christmas time all the way through January, you're going to have a lot of rutting activity. And that's when, you'll go to those WMAs that I'm talking about, and just from sun up to 9-10 o'clock in the morning, it's just boom, boom, boom.
Mm.
It sounds like
4th of July. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's so weird though to think about for someone. I mean, we're not too far north. I guess Oklahoma could be considered kind of Midwest or Southern. It's kind of right there on the line. But
we like Southern because if we did Midwest, we'd be the lower portion of the Midwest. In at least the big buck ratio.
Stay in the South.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But it's weird to think about that rut being so late in the season. Like is it pretty cold by that time, or do you guys not get a lot of that like weather?
It's not going to be as cold down here as long as the Midwest, or as like y'all would get it up there. But yeah, I mean it's still, and we have a ton of humidity. So I don't care what anybody says, man. Wet cold is 10 times worse and colder than dry cold.
Oh, you get that humidity in there.
Yeah, we're not going to compare like to Minnesota where it gets into negative temps and all that kind of stuff, but still it's freaking cold. 30 degrees here with a 10-mile-an-hour wind feels like 10 degrees somewhere else. That's just dry. But I don't know, man. I know that in the Delta, our deer rut sooner. I have seen with my own eyes, multiple bucks chasing November the 21st, 2019, November the 21st. I saw 3 very good deer. One of them would have been 150 plus, and one of them would have been 135, 140 incher. That 135, 140 had his nose up a doe's rear. And the CRP that they were messing around in, when you walked down there and went into it, it just smelled nothing but piss. And so the Delta of Mississippi, those deer typically the last part of November and the 1st through the 10th of December is when you see a major hit on them, major rut. But those deer are also a different species of whitetail, subspecies of whitetail that come from, I want to say it was Wisconsin and maybe Michigan. Because the Delta deer, the ones that are alongside the Mississippi River, it's nothing to kill 160, 170 pound doe. It's nothing.
Dang.
Nothing. Those deer are freaking, and dude, the bucks, ginormous. I mean, if you look on them, I've been looking for 2 acres to where I could buy and put a shop house on to have as a deer camp in the Delta, close to any kind of public. No, good luck. Good luck.
Get $10,000 an acre or something like that.
Yeah, that deer over your right shoulder with the arrow sticking through it. That is a very, very, very good deer. That deer right there is a dime a dozen alongside the Mississippi River. And everybody knows it. And they got a lot of ag there, but they're a completely different subspecies that was implanted back in the 80s when we didn't have any deer.
Huh.
So
I didn't know that. I've heard Bronson Strickland with the Mississippi State Deer Lab talk about the Delta and all that. And I couldn't remember if he said it was different species or just the soil, or it's probably a combination of both, just because it's more on that northern half, right?
It'd be on your eastern, western half. Sorry,
west. Okay, yep. Oh, yep. Because I understand. I'm a little slow sometimes.
Well, and for your listeners as well, okay, if they don't know who I am a social media comedian and basic form of a YouTuber. Okay, so I would not quote anything that I said. All right, in the future, even if it's spoken with confidence, because I don't have anything to reference that. It's just been what I have. I want to say we went over that at Mississippi State when we were in college there, but I'm pretty sure I've heard from multiple people and everything that the biggest reason is because it's a completely different subspecies. It's not like the rest of the deer in the state, so yeah.
With your rut being in like Christmas, said being kind of the peak and like all the way into January, when is your pre-rut where you're seeing a bunch of scraping and rubbing activity? Is that like into December or the early part of December?
A lot of the time, it's the first week of November. The first week of November, you'll scout and you'll start seeing a lot of rubs and a lot of scrapes. You'll start seeing the scrapes. You'll really start to see a lot of rubs. Man, the best year that I've ever had was in 2020, and I found a ton of scrapes and rubs in October. And that year, man, in Mississippi, if you can find a lot of scrape and rub activity in October, you better hunt the piss out of that, because you will kill that deer. And that, I remember I killed 3 bucks with my bow that year. I tagged out with a bow that year. 2 were on public and 1 was 80 yards on private right off public that I had permission to hunt on. And, I guess it was because we'd had a lot of rain or something. So we didn't have a lot of rain this year, and the bucks I didn't find the first scrape until the rut, and same thing with rubs too. They just did not sign out a whole lot this year. But, I would say normally, like I said, first week of November, you're going to start seeing sign. And then by the end of November to the 1st of December, you're going to see it really, really ramp up.
To your point, what you said a second ago about you just being, like a content creator, you making those funny shorts. The reason why we wanted to have you on is just, mainly for that, but as a resident perspective, that's kind of like that's Mississippi's own expert in a way. At least that's the way I see it. You know what I mean? Like, there can be studies done from people out of state, which I know Bronson and the MSU Deer Lab, like, they're within state. But I think there's something to be said by, talking to locals about, the way they view hunting there as well. Because let's say, me and Christian both have goals to go possibly one day hunt Mississippi. It's like, we could go back, listen to this, and hopefully stay on the right path. And especially the way you're talking, hopefully know where to, avoid those places where we don't get our tires slashed or, possibly shot at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you come from a state to where you can glass a lot and you calling works, grunting and rattling,
mm-hmm.
You come from a state that those 3 things you can do, you can't do here. From a majority standpoint. Now, you're going to literally talk to somebody. There's going to be somebody in the comments saying, that's bull crap. I glassed this place. I've rattled in this buck. I've called in this buck. I'm telling you, for the majority of the places that you can hunt here in Mississippi, if you take a grunt call in the woods, more times than not, you will spook those deer. If you rattle, I've seen it done on public with my buddy John Hill, but we're on the ground. We were on the ground. He was rattling and he was making a scene down there. He was, he was kicking brush and everything like that. I have seen he killed a buck that he rattled up. I was right there. It does work if the conditions are right, if it's rut and you're doing all that stuff. But as far as sitting in a tree, just sitting there going, bleh, bleh, and hitting the horns a little bit, for the most part, that ain't going to work. And the same thing here, like I said, on public, there's very few places, if any, to where you can just drive around and just glass and try to pattern deer. Because when you come here, you're either hunting hardwoods, pines, or river bottoms and sloughs. So you can't, I mean, you don't know. You can't ride around and be like, there's a bunch of deer out there. They're going to follow that, or whatever. You just look and you look on a map and you go, well, crap, it's just tree canopy, So what I do is I try to hunt thickets. I try to hunt the edge of bedding always. I'm a big bedding guy, and that's how I try to narrow down that, where they're traveling and if I can find an area that's real diverse, but yeah, if you can do all that kind of stuff and you come to Mississippi, I would say it's going to be a lot more difficult for you if that's all what you're used to. Right. But I mean, heck, man, I feel like, dude, you can, if you got 5 to 7 days to hunt and you're a halfway decent hunter, halfway know what you're looking for, public land hunter, I would say, especially, you can come to Mississippi in a week and you ought to be able to kill a basket rack, or bigger, but that's kind of my thoughts on it, opinion.
You're describing one of the most precious instruments in the woods, the grunt flute that everybody plays.
Yeah.
Dude, I have never heard more grunting ever than on public land. People play that thing like an instrument. And you're like, that does not sound like a deer. It's like every 10 minutes. I'd never heard that before in my life, a deer do that, but I've heard it so much on public.
Oh, and I grunted that deer that I killed in South Dakota. I grunted him up. I mean, as soon as I hit the grunt call, he was 90 yards from us. It was like I had him on a line, just pulling him straight to me. But yeah, as soon as November gets here, and people start thinking about pre-rut, people whip out them grunt calls, and then deer hear it from November to the end of season. So if you're gonna come down here and do some calling, you better be on the ground and making noise like a deer.
You talked about the kind of the bedding. You're a bedding hunter, and I like that. I kind of consider myself a bedding guy too. Like, I'm not the best at identifying food and browse and knowing all that stuff, but I can tell when something's thick. What exactly is good bedding where you're at? Is it like briars or just blow down or old clear cuts, or what's good bedding? All that stuff.
I love about a 2-year-old, 3-year-old clear cut, whether they've replanted it or not. I love that. Yeah, briars, especially any kind of briar thicket. A lot of our pine stands here, a lot of our clear cuts will be replanted in pine trees, and in those 2 to 3 years or 5 years, it'll be super thick. A lot of them will be thick with briars. So there's absolutely no human activity going in there, and those deer are going to bed in that thing. A lot of times they can go in the middle of it, or they'll stay within eyesight from the edge and kind of watch the edge of it. But I've killed a ton of bucks, man, a ton of deer, 20, 30 yards off of the edge of a pine thicket, doing just that, especially in the evening,
Yeah. Do you see like an increased activity, more towards the rut of them being in that super thick stuff, and especially the overgrown clear cuts? Because we hunt a little bit of southeast Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's a very diverse state, and down there it's more pines and oaks, and it's a lot more mountainous, at least are mountainous in a way. And over the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, that's what I've really been trying to key in on, especially during the rut, because as you're walking to and from, like, we'll have these big old either clear cuts or select cuts that kind of all are connected by these little fingers of trees. And if you set up in one of those fingers, as a person who's hunted Kansas, it's like, okay, yeah, you set in those fingers because that's where they're going to travel. Well, what I see, especially during the rut, is them basically just chasing all through that grass. Are you all seeing something similar?
No, most of ours is going to be chasing right along, either just inside the bedding area or right on the line of it, on that edge of that cutover or whatever. Because what I've seen is these bucks are sniffing for does. they're going to where the does are. You know, they're trying to go to where the majority of the does are, and the majority of the does, they're bedding. A majority of the deer are bedding, you know, right there in those really, really, really thick areas. So that's why we'll see a lot of around those thicket edges. You'll always find a lot of scrapes and rubs. And the best thing that I have seen is you know, especially during the rut, man. If you can hunt a bedding area, I mean, you're going to have chasing activity. You're going to see chasing activity if you hunt it enough. And if you can find an area down here that's got fresh sign, fresh scrapes and rubs, and you've got food, you've got acorns, you know, whether it's red oaks or white oaks. Down here, they love white oaks more than anything. But any kind of acorn tree, if you can find that near a thicket edge and you've got some scrapes and rubs, man, I'd say jump on that like stank on crap. Okay. It's going to be hot.
The Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. I used to be that guy lugging heavy gear down a steep hill after a big buck and regretting it with every single step. But now I use lightweight and dependable gear from Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and it has made a huge difference in my hunting and allows me to get to those hard-to-reach places. I do a lot of saddle hunting on public land throughout the fall, and a lot of those walks are 1 to 2 miles deep into the mountains. And in those situations, extra weight is not your friend. There's nothing better than walking through the woods and being able to get in any tree that you want. I've been running the Shakar sticks for a long time now, and the Ridge Runner 2.0 platform, and this past year I tried the Flatlander saddle from Out on a Limb as well, and all that gear is extremely lightweight and comfortable. If you want to support a 100% made in America company, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Once again, that is code HNTA15 for 15% off at outonalimbmfg.com. We trust Out on a Limb products for run and gun hunting anywhere in the country, and we hope that you will too.
Going back to South Dakota, you said that was your first out-of-state kill, right?
For a deer, yes, sir.
So why'd you pick South Dakota for that? I guess for that venture.
So I met a guy, Corey Jonas, back. I want to say it was last turkey season. We were driving through there, and he had shot me a message on Instagram, and you know, wanted to meet. And his profile picture was a big turkey and everything, and I said, well, we're actually going to be in your town, you know, 2 days. So, you know, I looked at his profile. He looked normal. So I was like, come on and, you know, come to the hotel and let's talk and meet. And we were already at the end of turkey season for us. I was ending it last year in Oregon, on the way to Oregon. And, you know, he was like, you know, man, when you come back out, let's hunt. Well, we stayed connected, and it just worked out. I talked to him. I said, man, I'd love to come out there and deer hunt with you. And he said, yeah, man. He said, that's good. Come on, let's do it. So he had me out there to deer hunt. I just didn't, it was one of those things, man. Like I'm getting so stinking busy that just so happened to be the place that I hunted last year. I want to say, crap, I can't remember if I hunted anywhere else for deer out of state. I probably didn't. No, because I had a buck here that I shot not this past deer season, but the deer season before. And he was a very large deer. Okay. He was at that time probably 135 inches, maybe. Yeah. And he's on public land. And I shot him with a muzzleloader in the neck at 150 yards or somewhere in this area, because this is where I was aiming, and never found him. Well, that joker showed back up on camera this past August. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and he was stinking toad. He was a big deer. By far the biggest deer that I had ever seen on camera or ever seen with my naked eye. And I had seen him that year that I shot him. I had seen him on that piece of public 2 times before I shot him. and just couldn't get a shot on him.
That's crazy. He just held that in the neck, because usually about every shot I see with a rifle, especially if it hits in the neck, they just fold like that.
Well, that's why I did say that's where I was aiming. I could have grazed him. I'm sure it was a graze, because on his pictures that I've got him this year, you can't see nothing anywhere on him that looks like a bullet had impacted. But I was stuck to him. I was bound and determined I was going to kill this deer this year. I had 6 cameras on this parcel of public. I'm not lying, 6 cameras, and had him on camera in a few different places, but I was trying to nail down where he was. And guys, he came out October the 1st, which is opening day of bow season, very first day of season for us here. October the 1st, he walked out at like 6:59 or 7:01. It was literally the very last minute of legal shooting light. And even when you're in a stand with a bow, at that point, a deer has to walk 5 yards from you or right underneath you for you to tell exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The rest of deer season, I did not get him on camera during shooting light until December the 7th. And he ran through with 10 does and 4 other shooter bucks. So something had jumped a huge pile of them up. And I had not seen that deer, didn't see him the rest of the year. So I was tied in my mind. I wasn't going hunting anywhere else until I killed that buck. And I didn't kill him. So but yeah, that's why that's why I only hunted South Dakota last year out of state.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, not killing a deer's usually how my season wraps up as well. So that's good to know. That's, nationwide in a sense. But It's funny you mentioned you met that guy off Facebook, you said?
Uh-huh. Yep.
We kind of got into not a pickle. It actually ended up pretty good, but we were in college and we were trying to find a cheap hunt to go on. And, Oklahoma has a little bit of pronghorn, so that's kind of what we were scouting for, up in the panhandle. Mm-hmm. And Christian finds a guy off Facebook and he's like, hey, this, he's said he's a ranch hand on this guy, on this cattle farm. Apparently they got pronghorn. He said for like $700, we can go and use his property and basically buy a landowner permit. I forget all the details, but this guy had, I don't know how many acres, or he worked on how many acres, Christian?
It's like 60 or 70,000 or something.
Stupid amount of land. But, which if you're not too familiar with like the panhandle of Oklahoma, there ain't crap there. Like there's one road, you got a Dairy Queen on the right-hand side, an old motel, and that was it in this town, is Boise City. And, we pull up to the property and, it's down, I think 5 or 6 miles of this old 2-track just to get to this old little ranch house where he told us to meet him. And at this point, we're like, okay, we got $1,500 cash here. We got all of our hunting crap. We're about to get robbed, but let's do it anyway. They said it's cheap, pronghorn hunting. Let's just try it out. It ended up working out, and it actually was being legit, but that would have easily been a way for us to get robbed, killed, and stuff somewhere in 60,000 acres. And afterwards we were like, we got lucky, but we're kind of stupid, I think.
Well, I feel like, if you talk to somebody on the phone, you can within 2 minutes figure out if they have common sense or not, or if you need to watch them or whatever. And I always, when somebody reaches out to me, I always look at their profile. And if they don't look like they've slept with a cousin or a sister and look like they just got out of county or heading to county, I may meet them or talk to them on the phone or something like that. And so, but I know there's some people on there that can fool you.
Yeah,
they can fool you. And it is definitely a risk that you have to be willing to take if you're going to, go that route. But it's the same thing. I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's riskier to knock on people's doors and ask them to hunt their land.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking for something on Facebook that says, hey, we're an outfitter, I mean, that's not as risky, in my opinion, as knocking on some random dude's door, because you never can tell what what's behind that door. I mean, he could be 10 beers deep and Sally laying on the floor right there. And he's like, the next MFer that knocks on that door is getting it. And just so happened to be you, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I forget who it was. Lee Ellis. Are you familiar with him? Seek One guy?
Who's not familiar with Steve?
I understand, but then
I love him.
You were questioning if our audience would know you, so I just had to ask.
Yeah, man. I'm familiar with it.
All right. So you probably heard his stories about door knocking on some people's doors, and I don't know if they had schizophrenia or what, but he was staying at a buddy's house, like right across the road or something. He walked over, the neighbors trying to hunt, I guess, his backyard or property or whatever, and that guy that he just knocked on called the police, didn't answer the door, but he said that he was sitting there on the side of the door. He had like a little glass pane right there, and he was holding a pistol there, and he said he was taking slack on the trigger.
Oh, my.
I heard that on a podcast. Now, if you know him personally, you can ask him yourself, but
No, I don't know him personally. Oh, good gosh, man. That's where you got to weigh, like, do I try knocking on doors or do I just chance getting a ticket? Which one here?
Two options.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, there's some crazy folks out there, you know. I've never done that personally. I've never knocked on somebody's door that I didn't know and asked permission to hunt their property. So I can't relate to that, but man, yeah. And a big reason for that too is like down here, once again, for the majority, speaking in majority terms, if you come to Mississippi and knock on people's doors to hunt, you're going to have to knock on a lot of doors. It'll happen, but you better be prepared to hear no a lot. And then when it comes to turkeys, dude,
Ready to hear hell no?
well, you will be met with verbal abuse and possibly physical violence. Okay. If you ask to hunt on somebody's land turkeys. Now, I mean, people are divorcing for stuff like that around here. Be like, man, that boy can raise himself for the next month and a half. I'm going hunting, baby. Let's go.
He needs this job, you know?
That's awesome. I mean, you kind of alluded to it earlier. You talked about kind of the outlaw stuff getting you into the content creation side, but what's the kind of full story? How did you start making videos, especially the funny ones?
Man, I started while I was doing, so I've been doing finance. I've been doing investments since I started in insurance 2020 and 21. I got an investment license. So I've been doing pretty much that from 21 to now. And I had a rough summer, man. Like we bought this house in 2022, right before my son was born. And that next year, that summer of 23, I was like, man, I'm going to go out here and get, you know, a bunch of these school districts. I'm going to be an additional 403B planner, or not planner, but 403B platform for them. And, you know, I'm going to go out there because I'm just going to visit every school district. I'm going to at least get one. I didn't get one. And I was watching social media and, I was sitting there and Justin Nunley came up on my feed and I had never seen this cat before. And I was like, man, this dude's pretty funny. And, he's getting a lot of views and everything. Well, one of his shorts came up of this right here. He was except it was in an in-person podcast and they asked him, how much money are you averaging? And he's like, about 25K a month. And I'm like, 25K a month? I'm like, I just now figured out who this guy is. So that told me the entire world does not have to know who a person is, or you don't have to be super, super famous to make good money on these platforms. And I was sitting there struggling, I'll be honest with you, because I wasn't getting any new money, man. My residuals were not paying me very much money at all. And I was like, golly. So I was like, why don't I just try it? Like, what have I got to lose? And I downloaded TikTok August the 24th, 2023. And I told my wife, I said, for the next 7 days, I'm going to upload 2 videos a day. I have no idea what I'm doing. But if I don't hate it, I'm going to keep going and just see what happens. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do it for a month or a year. I'm just going to, if I don't hate it after 7 days, I'm going to do that. If I don't hate it, I'm going to keep going. And I remember getting it didn't get good views at all for the first week or two, but I remember a lot of people in the community either coming up to me at ball games or calling me or whatever and be like, man, that video was awesome, dude. That's just how we are. And it was just enough to make me keep going. Like, man, this is cool. I'm having a good response from the community about this. I'm going to keep going. And sometime in September, I want to say it was the first week of September. I've been doing it like 10 days. I was like, dude, let me just send Nunley a message on Instagram. And I wrote him a little message, and I was like, at the end, I was like, dude, if you don't respond, I completely understand. I get it. Either way, no hard feelings, no worries. God bless you. Well, the dude FaceTimes me on Instagram Messenger. And I'm like, holy crap. So I got to talk to him for 20 minutes, and he taught me about the hook, the first 3 seconds of the video. He gave me advice on basically don't compare yourself to other content creators and other channels, and don't in your mind think I've got to have this many views and this many followers by 6 months or a year because they did. He's like, just try to make the next video better than the last and don't quit, And so I've ran with that since then. And I always wanted to do something. I always wanted to make a living hunting somehow. It was a dream of mine watching guys like, the Huntin Public. That's probably my favorite YouTube channel. But ever since they come out, I mean, that was just like a dream of mine to be able to do what they're doing. And not because to be a famous person, but just because I love killing things so much that I just love to get paid for it, And
There'd be a cherry on top.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, man, I don't want to have to take off to go hunting. I want to go to work and go hunting, And I with being in finance, I had a very, very, my schedule, my time was my own, because with that, with this business also, it's what I eat, I have to kill, So, my time's my own. So it allowed me to do both and not interfere with one another. But, I just always been a big, big outdoorsman, and I was born into a crazy bloodline. Man, we've got some characters in my family on both sides. So I've always had these harebrained ideas, and, I thought, man, heck, why don't I know I've got to be able to do some stuff and say some stuff that at least people here in the South would be able to relate to. And then if I can, tie hunting in there too. I mean, I feel like there's just a lot of things that the hunting culture can relate to. And a part of that was poaching, and outlawing and saying stuff that a lot of people won't say, I'm not trying to be controversial, but I'm just trying to be me. I'm just trying to be honest, That's like, with killing big deer too. I mean, I hope to be at that point one day where I can pass a 130-inch deer because he's 3 years old, but I ain't there yet,
Absolutely.
And I'm one of those guys. I believe that, hey, if it gets your heart thumping and you want to shoot it, if it's legal, shoot it. Just don't bash people and don't complain. Don't sit there. One of my biggest pet peeves was don't, people who shoot those little deer or young deer and then justify it in front of you. Like, well, I was gonna, pass you. He's a little, it's like, no, the way you felt before you pulled that trigger, you need to talk about that now and own up to that. Like that little 4 points that you busted, you're excited, and it's okay to be excited. All right. So let's do that. Let's not justify you thought it was a bigger deer or, you thought it was an older deer, whatever. But, yeah, I'm dancing around your question, but that was it is, I've just had a lot of experiences over the last 20 years as a hunter, and, it's a big part of the culture. And I was always kind of a class clown, loved to make people laugh. So I just thought, well, heck, I'll try it and see where it goes. And, that's all I've been focused on is the work, putting out the videos every week and letting the good Lord choose how he wants to bless, when he wants to bless, and when he doesn't want to. So,
Well, I guarantee you those those videos, they're funny and they bless us often. Let me tell you, because they're good. They're good. But I like what you said about the on the deer hunting side about, you're not going to pass up a buck or the biggest buck of your life per se, because we posted a clip on TikTok and I said that, everybody now, especially in the whitetail world's like, oh, I want to shoot this 5, 6, 6.5-year-old deer, and if it ain't that, I don't want it. And even if it's a 3-year-old 160, I want to grow it till the next year. Well, I posted a clip of me saying I don't care if it was a 2.5-year-old, 160, and it had a chance to be a 200 next year. I don't like if that's my biggest buck at the time. I'm going to pull the trigger. If there's a 7.5-year-old, 120, 130-inch buck standing 20 yards from me, and then I have that 3.5-year-old 160. I know I'm being unrealistic with the ages and the antler size, but I'm doing this on purpose. I would shoot the bigger deer. Why is that? Because that's the biggest buck I've ever seen before, and I'm not about to pass those up just yet. And let me tell you, people came out of the woodworks. People came out of their mama's basement typing all that crap with their Cheeto fingers, and they hated it. And it's like, dude, but I'm not on a farm where I can shoot, 170-inch deer every given year.
Everybody takes all those variables out. I know that's why I say things, and I say for the majority, because I know there's always exceptions. But, I mean, everybody acts like that everybody else has the pristine prime hunting opportunity in the hunting land that you do, and so you should go by the same things that they go by. It's like, well, pass that deer up, but you'll get another chance next week. What if you are that guy that gets to hunt 4 times a year? Okay. What if your area that you're hunting doesn't have very many big deer at all? And what if your area is also that area that, if you don't shoot that deer, your buck-toothed neighbor's going to shoot him. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're still hunting 4 times a year. So there's a lot of variables that go into it. And that's why I say, man, if it's legal, just I don't rag on people that do stuff like that. I mean, if they're doing legal stuff, as long as they're not talking crap, now if you got that guy, we all know that one douchebag that thinks he's God's greatest gift to hunting, and the only thing he kills is this right here on the back of Daddy's farm, and he's gonna sit there and tell you how to hunt. Yeah, nobody has time for that guy, But for the most part, man, it kind of like old Ted Nugent said, if the spike makes you happy, shoot the spike.
Here, I'll do you one better right here. You like that?
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, but I mean, it's I don't know. I like live and let live, but I love saying that stuff too, because they're the people that make that algorithm go. Are the people that are the keyboard warriors that most of them ain't raised right. All right. They just, that's what makes those videos go. So I'm definitely appreciative of them, but I still am open to saying these things on platforms, because at the end of the day, there are still, in my opinion, a lot more people that think like us. Okay, Christian's quiet, so he may be the other end of it.
He's a big buck killer. He lives in Texas. He hunts those high fence ranches, so it is what it is.
Exactly. He's 70. He's not.
Yeah, I ain't even picking up the gun. Yeah,
if I can't back my side by side up to it, hey, I get it. I'm just kidding.
Piss on it. Yep.
Yeah. But no, there's more people like us out there than there are the ones getting on there and being a purist or whatever. But dude, Michael Idell is hitting it hard right now. Have y'all seen what he's doing on social media?
Not really,
Dude, go on his Instagram and look up what he's doing. He's acting like that. He's doing like with an English accent. He's talking real proper and everything, and real trying to sound real sophisticated. And he's making fun of these purist hunters that have just the perfect lines that you have to stay within on hunting these turkeys, and the do's and the don'ts, and it's awesome because those guys, like I said, on your own farm or public, hunt the way you want to. If you want to wait till that bird gets into 25 yards, and if he doesn't get in that close, you don't shoot him for your own personal gain. I'm happy for you, dude. That is so awesome. You are a phenomenal turkey hunter when you can do all those things. But the amount of hate, that's also the cats that get on there and, same thing with the deer, get on you about, you're the reason, you're the problem. You shooting 2.5-year-olds or 3.5-year-old. Those are the same cats,
Yeah.
So, Waddy, he's putting it to him right now. I love it, man. I shot a bird in Florida. This video go out tomorrow on my channel. I shot an Osceola out of the air. My first one at an outfitter.
Shame.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah. I mean, so.
That is kind of funny he's doing that because it makes my head go to, and this is probably what he's doing, the Europeans, only the rich get a hunt, right? And it's just a rich man sport. And that's slowly, at least for the whitetail world, you're probably more familiar with the turkey hunting side. That's kind of what it's turning into. If people have these unrealistic expectations of, shooting bigger and bigger deer, which that's okay. If your goal is to shoot a 200-incher, my hat's off to you. But kind of like what you were mentioning, it isn't everybody's circumstance. Not everybody has, the funding to buy a 5,000 acre farm and grow deer to that size. And so with that being said, it's like, I think that's why your content is so refreshing to a lot of people, just because, it's real and you poke fun at the stuff that needs to be poked fun at. But also you're true to who you are at heart, especially in the hunting realm. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is brought to you by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. We've been using Out on a Limb for many years now, and this upcoming season will be no different. When it comes to good saddle hunting gear, I think of weight, packability, durability, and efficiency. And simply put, Out on a Limb checks all of those boxes. Before we got into saddle hunting, I'd be going back and forth taking either a climber or hang on. And an issue I found was as I'd be walking through the woods, it seemed like it would always get hung up on something, whether that be low-hanging limbs or a patch of saplings. And not only does that get annoying, it's not very stealthy either. And when you find a good spot to set up, you're still pretty limited to which trees you can sit in. But these saddle hunting systems change all of that. With their selection of saddle platforms and one sticks, Out on a Limb can hook you up with the right setup to help you deflate that big old target buck. To order yourself a high-quality saddle system that's made right here in the USA, just go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off anything on their website. Again, the code is HNTA15 for 15% off. We trust Out on a Limb's products to run and gun anywhere in the country, and we hope you will too.
Whether it's YouTube long form or whether it's shorts, I want people to follow me because they love who I am. And I know that I'm the type of guy that, I said it on a podcast yesterday, there are people that would take bullets from me, and there are people that would put 10 in me in a heartbeat. I'm that kind of guy. You love and you hate, or you love or you hate. But I want to be honest. I want to be myself. And myself right now, if an outfitter calls me and I want to go on that hunt, I'm going to go on that hunt and I'm going to video it and I'm going to have a good time. Yeah. That hunt that I went on in Florida was the easiest turkey hunt I've ever been on in my entire life, but it was freaking awesome.
I bet.
So I'm not going to not video that because I'm afraid of what folks are going to think of me. I feel like to have longevity in this industry, I've got to continue to be myself and just allow the people that want to follow along with me, and just kind of like a vlog, honestly. It's like a day in the life of Trent Ellis. It's just, a lot of hunting, a lot of shooting, a little cooking, a little golfing, just like that. Because I'd rather be a fan of me and follow me because of me, rather than, he only hunts public, or he only kills 160-inch deer, or he only, does the opposite, or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather build a following around people who love me than love what I'm doing, because there's just a ton of guys and gals out there that are doing what I'm doing and a heck of a lot better. But all I can do is just be honest. I can just show myself doing some stuff every now and then with honest reactions, giving honest experiences, and be willing to accept the fact that I'm going to get a lot of flack for that and a lot of pushback, because I'm kind of with a lot of things going against the grain. but that's part of it, So I'm also one of those guys that don't, I'm not sitting over here going, why in the world is people saying all this stuff, and it's just ridiculous. And it's like, dude, that's part of the business,
Yeah.
Keyboard Cheeto finger warriors. They're the ones that are, like I said, I appreciate you. Okay. You paying me. I appreciate that, and, whenever my skin gets way too thin and I get to thinking about it too much, I have to remind myself, like, dude, instead of dressing up like your wife and posting a video and getting paid for it and blowing an outfitter and all this stuff, you could be in a daggum coal mine in Alabama. You could be here for Tire in Tupelo working swing shift. Okay. Hoping for Saturday and hoping that there ain't another truck at the gate for you to go, kill that bird or that deer. Okay. So just shut your mouth and post a video and let them say what they want to. So
yeah, it's all perspective, but I will say, you got to have thick skin, but I'm sure you deal with it too. There's those mornings where you get on there and you kind of check notifications. You see one comment and you click on his profile and he just looks like his teeth needs kicked in. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, I just got to let him have it just this one morning. The Lord will forgive me. I promise.
Well, I honestly, the most I've ever done on a response is like a laughing emoji. A laughing emoji. Like that's my way of releasing my inner rage online, is just saying, just laughing at a comment that I know that when they see the laughing, they're gonna just, gonna drive them insane. Yeah, no, I'm the first to admit, man. I've always said I don't care what people think about me. I'm gonna blah blah blah. Dude, everybody cares what everybody thinks about them. That's why, there's a small select of human beings that truly couldn't care less if the sun doesn't come up in the morning. They just don't care. They just,
I don't have the money for that though. So
yeah.
It gets to me sometimes, man.
So I get it.
My favorite is those ones that's about that long, and you're like, I love responding to that. Too long, didn't read, don't care. You could tell it's just hate the whole way down. I love it when people you don't know take a long amount of time out of their day to give you like a detailed response. You're like, I don't know you. You don't even have a profile picture. You just wrote that to me. What did I do to you? Who upset you today?
Here's the problem. When we started suspending kids for fist fighting in school, that's where all these people come from. That's it right there. If kids grew up nowadays getting punched in the face for saying something stupid at school, they'd be like, oh, wait, people can lay hands on you just for saying something. I'm not going to walk up to that guy in the bar and tell him that I think his shirt looks gay, because he's a lot bigger than me. Unless I'm ready to tote one or at least dish some out, I probably don't need to say that, So
have you had one person ever see you and say something to you?
Never,
not one.
I have never had one through it. Everybody that comes up to me always tells me how much they love my content. And that's to this day, anytime somebody recognizes me or comes up to me and says that, it's the best thing in the world. It's the coolest experience for me personally. But I've never had the opposite. I've never had anybody come up. And I honestly, guys, I don't know. I'm redheaded. I don't know how I would handle that. To be honest with you, I'd probably get my tail whooped, because I'm either going to say something back or do something, So, yeah, I don't know. But most people that say all that crap, I get what you're thinking, Christian. They're not going to say that to your face,
No. All right. So are you doing the content stuff full time now? Or are you doing the finance stuff too? Or
I've been doing content full time since I first posted. So I'm doing content and my investment business full time together. Like I said, I'm not day trading. I'm not buying and selling stock every day. I'm doing mutual funds, which are long-term investments. Okay. So it's most of the time it's a sit and forget, let the market do what it's going to do, and just pick up the phone when my clients call. Okay. And help them when they need help. So it can be very balanced, but yeah, I'm doing both full time.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, we don't want to keep too long, Trent. I know you got little hoodlums running around, and we heard your alarm go off, so you must have something important coming up. But before we get off here, do you have anything new coming up, whether that's on the hunting side? Like, you got any cool trips planned?
Yeah, I'm going to South Dakota this year. At the end of April, I'll be going to. I just got back from Florida. That was a spur of the moment deal. I may be going to West Virginia and Texas and Alabama, but as of right now, I think that's pretty much all I got lined up. I may be forgetting something, but
yeah, just 5 states, taking it pretty light in the next few months. Yeah,
well, hey man, we have been wide open when it comes to, like I'm constantly working. Whether it's I'm going to do an investment appointment here in an hour. That's why my alarm went off. That was an old alarm. I'm going to do an investment appointment here in an hour, so I'm doing that, and I'm putting out 6 shorts a week, 1 to 2 long forms a week. So I'm either filming or editing or whatever. And but like I said, man, it's it's a grind, but it's a grind that I asked for, and
yeah, it's a blessing.
It is. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's right. But
I heard a good line today. I love some trap music myself, but I heard this rapper put out a new song, and it was like he was basically just talking about like, look up, these are the moments that you like prayed for. And I'm like, I looked up today, I was like, I got a baby over there on my wife breastfeeding right now in a nice house, fixing to do a podcast at noon because I can. I'm like, life is good. Like this is awesome, and I get stressed out by that. I'm like, these are modern problems, dude. These are seriously modern problems.
Yeah, because, I look at it and I'm like, 2 years ago, if you had told me that on a Friday I'd be sitting here in basketball shorts with a sponsored T-shirt, hat, all this kind of stuff, like, and I'm sitting over here worried about what somebody says about me, or I'm sitting over here like, man, I had to stay up the other night, past 11 o'clock to edit that dadgum, or I got to drive all the way 12 and a half hours to go kill a bird in Florida. Like if you'd have told me that part of me would have been complaining about that other part of me would have beat the crap out of this one. Yeah. You idiot. Shut up. Sweating my butt off, right? Shut up.
So, yeah. No, I get it. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we love what you do. We love who you are as a person from what we could see from what you post. But, yeah, thank you for jumping on with us.
Guys, thank y'all. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best. And if I can ever help you, just holler at me.
Yeah. Before we go right quick, where's the best place for people to see your content and keep up with you?
So I'm on all the 4 main, the TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Everything is my name, Trent Ellis, TrentEllis, except for Instagram. And that's going to be Trent_Ellis21. Both of my meta profiles have blue check marks with them. And then TikTok, like I said, it's just me, Trent Ellis. I've got about 360,000 followers on there. I know there's some fake accounts, so it's the one with 360. And then YouTube, it'll be my name, and it'll have about 115-ish, or maybe a little more, 1,000 subscribers on there. So, and that's where they can find me. If they want to find out who I am, non-exaggerated, just kind of everyday myself, what I'm doing, what I got going on, they can go to YouTube, and that's where, my long form stuff. That's the more normal version of me.
We met. You're a good guy. I'm gonna delete my fake TikTok account that I've been stealing your content of. So that ought to help a little bit on your followers.
Hey man, hustle. Get what you can get, brother. Get what you can get.
That's awesome.